Welcome back to a new year of math. This is my first video that I'm making. Most of you will be watching this as 7th graders, and it's going to be on adding and subtracting fractions. I know you're very excited to be back to math and really pumped that your first big section is on fractions. I'm excited too. So let's get right to it. The first thing we're going to be doing is adding fractions with unlike denominators. If you don't understand how to add fractions with the same denominator, then you probably need to talk to me before you start this video. But one of the things that we need to understand that in order to add 1/2 plus 1/3 is that if we brought this piece into here, they wouldn't match, and we wouldn't be able to understand what the answer is because the pieces would not be the same size. Well, when you want to make the pieces the same size, we call that finding a common denominator. One of the best tricks to find a common denominator is to take the pieces from the below fraction and to add them in, and it gives you a pretty good idea about how big each piece should be, which in our case is going to be 1/6. So this top fraction is equal to 1, 2, 3, 6, and the bottom fraction is equal to 1, 2, 6. And now we can add them together. We can move this piece right here, and we can move that piece right here. We can erase what we were working with before, and our answer is now 5/6 total. If you are looking to do this without a picture, we want to find a common denominator of 6. So we would take the number here, 2 times 3. So we have to take the top number, 1 times 3, getting us this piece right here. This one, to get to 6th here, we would do 3 times 2, and then we do 1 times 2. So I'm really hoping you understand that the algorithm right up here and the picture over here get us to the same answer of 5/6. For subtraction, the idea is the same. Now, we actually have a nice problem here that, let me delete these real quick, that we actually have the 6th already drawn, and if we add in the pieces from the top fraction into the bottom one, 6th ends up making all of the pieces the same size. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the bottom one, 2/3 turns into 1, 2, 3, 4, because 1/3, 2/3. Now, in order to subtract, that means that we have to take out the same number of pieces from the top and the bottom fraction, which means we are left with 1/6. If we're going to work with the algorithm here on the left, 5/6 is our starting value here. This one we need to turn into 6th as a common denominator. So that means 3 times 2. So we do this number times 2, and we end up getting 4/6, which gives us our answer of 1/6. I want you to try this one on your own. So for this problem, I decided the common denominator would be 12ths. So what I did here is I got 4 here, so I need to break each of these into 3 pieces. Whoops, I kind of messed that one up a little bit. Straight lines are a little bit tough. So 12ths, the bottom one, same thing, 12ths. And as you can see, drawing ability is not as important as getting the math right. So for this top one, we want to do all the way through 9/12. That's all sectioned in. 9/12. On the bottom, 2/3 becomes 8/12, right there. Now, when we add 9/12 plus 8/12, we end up getting 17/12. But 17/12 would be 12 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So this is the same thing as 1 and 5 twelfths. And there you go. We got the picture and the algorithm answer. We end up getting the same thing for both. If you weren't able to do that, make sure you ask some good questions. I want you to try this one on your own as well. For this problem, I ended up turning 4/5 into 12/15. 1/3 turned into 5/15. And when I took 12 minus 5, I ended with 7/15, not 12ths. Almost gave away some candy there. And that is a reminder, if you ever find a mistake on anything that I've done in a video, you can get candy by showing me the mistake with the timestamp and the corrections. So, we're going to move to a couple quick story problems. Mr. Schmidt has 3/5 of a pound of hamburger. If you remember, one of the things that I like to do is to circle the key information. Mr. Waltner has 1/6 a pound of hamburger. How much combined hamburger do they have? I like to underline the question. So there are two questions in this one, so we're only going to start with the first. So if I have 3/5 of a pound of hamburger, Mr. Waltner has 1/6 a pound of hamburger, how much do they have combined? Sounds like addition. So I have 3/5 plus 1/6. I'm going to try this one without the picture. So that means that on my left fraction, I need to make the denominator 30. Because these two will have a common denominator of 30. So I did that times 6. So I have to do this times 6. So I get 18/30 plus 6 times 5 is equal to 30. Therefore, 1 times 5 is our numerator of 5. So we have 23/30 of a pound of hamburger is the answer to the first question. The second question is, if they need 1 pound of hamburger to make hamburger helper, will they have enough? So our answer here is no, because 23/30 is less than 1. And since we have to write everything as a full complete sentence, we're going to write that over here on the other side. So the answer is no. Mr. Schmidt and Mr. Waltner only have 23/30 of a pound, which is less than 1 pound. And that is the answer to the first question. I want you to try this one on your own. For this question, I started with 7/8 of a cup of flour. Mr. Waldner was clumsy and knocked a 1/4 out. When I found the common denominator of 2/8, I subtracted them and found I had 5/8 of a cup left over. The question says I need 1/2 cup to bake my famous cookies. I don't know if I've ever made cookies in my life before, but my famous cookies require 1/2 cup, which is the same as 4/8. I do have more than that, so the answer is yes, Mr. Schmidt has enough flour because 5/8 is greater than 4/8, or 1/2. And there you go. Video done. There are notes on the blended learning checklist. Make sure when you get those notes done for that and the video notes, you give them to Mr. Schmidt so to prove that you're done.